song. Hey Jude. No,
Yeah,
do the
that
Beatles.
wouldn't get flagged.
What's that?
That wouldn't get flagged.
No.
It wouldn't get flagged if you're singing it.
Fair enough.
I think it'll get flagged that we were singing it.
But it won't get flagged by Facebook and take
Oh,
it
we're
out.
supposed to be paying attention to him. Damn.
Good Friday morning, guys. Just a fantastic day to be alive. Thank you kindly for joining us on Real Talk with Keith Smith. My name is Jerry Miller, and there's nothing I would rather do than connect with you, the viewer and listener, through the I Love CVille Network. This program, Real Talk with Keith Smith, 7 consecutive years of running on this network. Look at the screen, guys, for the partners and the sponsors that you can count on in real estate. Intrastate Service Company, a home's best friend. Ladies and gentlemen, ISC has been around since one man, the first generation, started the company with one truck and payphones around the Charlottesville, Virginia area. How about a little love for Woody Fincham of Fincham and Associates? If you need an appraiser to take a look at some real estate that you own, it's Woody Fincham, and it's Woody Fincham only, ladies and gentlemen. The show is archived on realtalkwithkeithsmith.com. We encourage you to click the Partners tab, where the best of the best in real estate are located. Personally vetted by Keith Smith, who's been in the game since 1987. Judah Wickower, studio camera. Let's welcome the star of the talk show, Keith Smith of Real Talk with Keith Smith.
I was just thinking maybe we should have Judah put a picture of what a payphone actually looks like for certain individuals.
Are there any payphones locally around? Anyone know where a payphone is? That's a great question for the feed.
When was the last time you actually used a payphone?
Oh, I haven't used a payphone in must be 10 years.
Yeah.
Maybe longer.
Yeah. Decades.
Bill McChesney, any payphones around? James Watson, Rob Neal, any payphones around? Spencer Pushard, Carol Thorpe, Yonna Smith, Bob Shada, Kevin Yancey, Colleen, any payphones around that you guys know of? Where's the location for a payphone?
I don't know if there. Probably the only place. This is going to be very cynical.
You're going to say jail?
Literally.
But that's not a payphone. You get a free call.
That's right. One.
Yeah.
Anything
They
after
give you
that?
a quarter for, right?
Do they give you a quarter? Oh, Judah, dude, what do we?
They could give you.
You got some experience over there.
And guess
Is
what?
your mic on over there, Judah?
I'm about to say. And guess what he's got in front of him?
He has his mic, but he's not on screen though.
Everybody
voice of
loves to
God
see a
over there.
little
I'd love
bit
to see the voice of
little bit of Judah.
Rob Neal. Rob Neal. I love Rob Neal. He says the phone booth outside Tip Top Restaurant. There's a payphone there, but he says he doubts it works. Rob Neal. Love you, man.
And that's set up.
Love you, Rob.
That's like set up in the old British kind of red payphone, Doctor Who style. Look at that. I'm just showing off that I actually watched Doctor Who.
Rob Neal's in the real estate game. I see him at the gym at the Boar's Head putting up some steel, man. Dude is getting jacked. Rob Neal, you're putting in the work, and the results are showing, my friend.
So let's kick off with.
Oh, Bill McChesney confirms what Rob just said. There's a phone booth by Tip Top, but I don't think there's a phone in it. McChesney and Rob Neal in the same feed saying this. I love the show.
And there are. I would love Rob's when we get into it. I love Rob's read on the post that I did about my client who couldn't get a contract in on $165,000. It's going to be $625,000.
Set the stage. You may have missed your post. Rob Neal, listen to this little bait and switch action.
Well, it actually turns out that it's an inexperienced agent action, as I think ultimately what happened here. So I'll set the stage real quick. I have a buyer who put a contract in on a home. We'll just leave all the specifics out. I'll just use numbers. It was listed for $625. We put it on the market for $625. 30% down payment. Typical home inspection. Pretty simple offer on the way back. It's been on the market for 2 weeks. 0 offers, 0 anything. The offer came back $25,000 more expensive. Came back at $650. So the seller had no competing offers. Just decided that their house now was worth $650,000. So to make a long story short, after a long back and forth and a lot of time and coaching and mentoring with this agent on the other side, we ultimately put it under contract for $625, which was the list price. So I would love to hear any real estate agents out there what they think about this. Is this misleading, bait and switch? Is this kind of normal?
That's not normal.
I've been doing this since '87.
That's not normal.
I've never seen this happen.
And the
before.
interesting thing is, would Keith Smith, you're representing the buyer?
representing the buyer.
You come in at full price?
Full price. Full price.
Technically, you would be owed a commission if the deal fell apart.
Well, we never got to a deal. We never got to a contract.
But if you come in with a full price offer,
so
doesn't the contract say you're owed a commission at that point?
It has to be ratified. It's a little bit of a slippery slope. We're not ratified, right? So what you're relying on is my buyer-broker agreement.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah. So
your buyer-broker agreement suggests you would be owed a commission. Am I wrong there? Now, how you would enforce that is the...
Yeah. I think
how do you enforce that?
Yeah, I think that would be a tough row to hoe. Nor would I do it.
No,
right?
Of course you wouldn't do it. But I just technically...
Nor would I do it.
I mean, it's not the buyer's fault.
It is not the buyer's fault,
Yeah.
nor it's not my fault.
Yeah.
What ultimately happened here was I took this as an opportunity for a coaching moment. And
with whom? Your client or the other agent on the other side?
No, my client and I were lockstep. It was the agent on the other side, right? Young, again, I'll leave specifics out. Young agent probably doesn't have the support that he or she would need on it. So I took an opportunity to educate it. So I kind of went in ask a gazillion questions mode. Tell me about your seller. What's going on? So I started trying to figure out how we can get there because my client fell in love with the house, right? My client wanted the house. So I was doing my very best. So I took an opportunity to coach them and go through it. And ultimately we got to the 625. What the situation was the seller was of a certain, and it's kind of what we're going to go into here with the data, right? We're in this kind of weird thing, and we've been talking about this, that are we shifting from sellers to buyers? And we'll talk about that.
Depends on the pocket in Central Virginia.
Pardon?
Depends on the pocket. Depends. The micro markets matter. Wise man once told me that.
We'll get into that. But what had happened was this was a seller of a certain age, let's say north of me,
Okay.
who was convinced because their next door neighbor sold a house for $25,000 over list price 6 months ago. So they kind of went into this with the intention of trying to upbid it. Well, the upbids never came, right? So they never came. And what happened was after I started kind of coaching this agent through it, I said, okay, well, did you research that particular property they're talking about? No. Okay, well, that's probably a really good idea. Why don't we go ahead and research that? Well, what happened was 6 months ago, that set the market in this particular micro market, and I'm talking blocks now, at 625. So he priced it right. The agent did exactly right. The problem was the seller had something else in their head. And we've been talking about this for a long time, right? Sellers tend to adjust to the market far later than buyers do. Buyers usually are kind of in the front of it. So anyway, after a lot of coaching and mentoring and conversation and do you really want to do this? And I may have called everybody from the state of Virginia all the way down to this person's broker to say, hey, what can we do to get this across the finish line? My client's willing to do this at list price, unless now the price has changed, right? So have you changed your list price? If you change your list price, how come it hasn't changed in the MLS, right? So we were just doing all this conversation back and forth, and ultimately got to the point where the listing agent really didn't know how to communicate with their client. So I surely didn't tell him what to do, but I gave him some coaching, him or her some coaching moments. But I guess ultimately where we got to is this is where the pros show up. I talk about it all the time. And we coached them. My client got what they wanted. The seller got what the market says it's worth. And we're moving forward with it. But a lot of people in the feed were like, withdraw it, take it out, tell them to go bleep themselves, that kind of stuff.
I mean, you can't help it if your buyer's in love with the property. You got to do what you have a fiduciary duty to do what's best for your buyer, and your buyer wanted it.
And I'm just going to throw this out there because the agent on the other side said the one thing that I despise when I talk to an agent on the other side. Well, this is what my client said to do. I went, no, it doesn't work that way.
Of course not.
Right. It does not work that way. If your client is asking you to do something, this is what I told the guy, a person. I said, if the client said, you must go jump off the Brooklyn Bridge in order to do this, are you going to jump off the bridge? And he goes, of course not. Well, okay, well, you're a professional, right? You have to act in a professional manner. We are a collegiate system where it requires people like number 6, who's on the other side, matters on it. Well, ultimately, we got there, but that was about 3 days of conversations to get my client across the finish line, at least the contract finish line, and get their seller to go ahead and agree that 625 is what the market is willing to bear for that home.
$625,000. Kevin Yancey, good morning in Waynesboro. This portion of the program, thanks to Charlottesville Settlement Company. Charlottesville Settlement Company
Who's helping us with this closing?
Is helping Keith Smith with the closing. They want to make sure that everyone that walks through their office feels welcome at Charlottesville Settlement Company. Whether your transaction involves a single-family home, condo, refinance, or construction loan, the Charlottesville Settlement Company team is friendly, experienced, and communicative. Keith Smith, brokers are watching the program. Let us know your thoughts, brokers. Bob Shada,
I would really
welcome
love
to
to
the show.
know how an individual agent would handle that, or broker would handle that, where your offer met the list price, but they came back with no competitive offer.
I mean, you could have, if you wanted to be aggressive, said, all right, well, we're withdrawing our offer. In
Well,
48 hours, we'll put in another one at $600K.
Well, if you don't think I did the takeaway in the middle of my
So,
negotiations.
48 hours at $600K, and 72 hours it's $575K.
Yeah.
And you could just see how long this property sits.
Well, I think I got to understand the seller a little bit better, right, and where they're at. This was a home they built for themselves, raised their children, and, right, it was a very specific design, right? It just happened to meet my client's needs perfectly on it. So, you know, what my role was not to go over a line to screw it up for my buyer, but get the other side to understand that this is a good deal and they should take it. And ultimately, that's where we got.
And
to.
ultimately, the word of 2025 seems to be uncertainty with a lot of turmoil around Trump's tariffs. Is uncertainty percolating in the Central Virginia real estate market?
No, the word is weird.
Weird.
That's the word.
Is weird a second cousin of uncertainty?
I think uncertainty is a second cousin of weird.
Oh, okay. There we go.
No, it's weird, right? Again, I haven't seen this since 1987, right? Even when there was the Wild West back in the 80s and the 90s, when there really wasn't as many rules as we have right now. You would just never see something like this. So the market is weird, and that's not the word that I've stole this from the good Dr. Lisa Steravant. The market is weird, right? It's up and down. We're kind of in this transition period. I've said a few months ago to keep a track on things. I think in certain micro markets, you're going to start seeing a little bit more of a buyer scenario, a little bit buyers having a little bit more strength in the market. You're looking at, I just looked at it, we're at 121 new homes that came on in a week. So we're constantly seeing week over week, 7-day period over 7-day period, roughly 100 to 130 houses coming on per week. You're also looking at pendings pretty much matching those numbers, a little bit less, but not too much. So they're coming on and off, and as they're coming on, the buyers are just sucking into it. And I just think the sellers, certain sellers, look, at the end of the day, the listing agent wasn't able to convince the seller that they understood the market and trust me as a trusted advisor and a pro in this. So ultimately, that's what happened. And so I kind of interjected myself in a coaching and mentoring perspective to kind of help him kind of convince his client was the best thing to do. But as inventory comes on the market at this pace, and if it keeps on staying at this pace, in certain locations, the sellers are not as much in control as they used to be.
Becoming more balanced, and in certain locations, maybe the buyers have the pendulum has swung buyer side. Chad Wood, hello. Stephanie Wells Rhodes, hello.
So we're not there yet. Right?
There's certain pockets in Central Virginia where
we're not. I mean,
we are very long in the tooth in some listings.
I agree.
And price modifications, price cuts, price adjustments, price
that's
reductions.
because they didn't get the prices right.
They're happening pretty frequently right now.
And because they're not priced right to go into the market, which is a situation.
At one time, price modifications and adjustments were not happening, Keith.
Oh,
There were escalations. They weren't price reductions.
Oh, yeah, 100%.
And now we're in a reduction. There's reductions happening in a lot of places, including in the Western Albemarle area.
I just done 2 escalation deals, right? Which is not my favorite thing in the world to
Those
do.
are bananas, yeah.
Right? But I've just done 2 because it was the right location, right price, right features, right condition. The timing was perfect, and the agent on the other side was a pro, right? Just literally done 2 this week on that end of it. But why micro markets matter? So I did a post, and I'll just do the high level thing. I just took a look at this April versus last April, right? What was the median sales price of this April of 2025 versus 2024? So to make a long story short, for the car footprint, we're up 2.1%. So we're up 2.1% in price points. So the median sales price in 2024 was $480. The median sales price in right now, hold on a second, let me make sure I got the right number, is at $490, which is roughly 2.1% up in that. End of the quarter, right? So the end of the quarter in the car footprint, so this is the end of March versus the end of April, just that 1 month jump is at 2.5%.
478 to 490, ladies and gentlemen. Median price car footprint, end of Q1, which was close of business March, 478,000 median price. Close of business April, 490K median value.
Year to date, it's up 4.1%. So what the year to date of last year versus now, we've jumped 4.1%. But as you're reading through that, go through the rest of the stuff because the micro markets matter, right? So we've been talking about, what's going on in Charlottesville. Charlottesville, right? Same April of this year versus the April of last year is down 1.5%. So Charlottesville is a little soft right at the moment. This is April of this year versus April of last year.
April of last year, median values 595,000. April of this year, median value 586,000. That's a delta of 9K in the wrong direction for Charlottesville City median values. Albemarle County, on the other hand, ladies and gentlemen, is not the case.
A 3.3%, right? So we're up. So if you would have bought a house in April of last year,
you're paying $540,000 on a median value,
and your value just went up 3.3%
to $558,000 median value in Albemarle County. And certain pockets of Albemarle, that's even higher.
Take a look at. Did you see a Fluvanna County?
Oh, I saw Fluvanna County. You got a little 5K uptick.
We had a little 5K uptick, but take a look at what it did versus the end of the quarter, right? So we're a little bit lower versus the end of the quarter. So we had a little bit of an uptick in the beginning of the quarter of 2025. So we're close to a 10% drop between the end of the first quarter and the end of April. I think that's a little bit of a blip, right? Things catching up. But,
Nelson County and Louisa County saw substantial drops in median value. April 2024 versus April 2025. Nelson County saw a drop from 455,000 to 435,000. Louisa County saw a drop from 431,000 to 393,000. The outer counties, you can make a case, maybe a smidge soft right now.
So that's why micro markets matter. Now, within each one of those jurisdictions,
of course,
there are micro markets within micro markets.
Spring Creek within Louisa County is a good example.
100%.
That continues to be red hot.
Yeah. So, this is why if you take, if we were just to sit here and go, hey, we were at a 2.5% increase in car, which is accurate, right? It's accurate, right?
Yeah, but that's a bogus number.
It's not bogus. It's just the total number of all the jurisdictions. And the point is back in the time of the unicorn years, right?
COVID, pandemic.
Everything.
When turkeys could fly in a wind.
Everything was going up.
Love you, Yonna.
Now's the time to have this professional. And it was very interesting. The reason I wanted to dovetail this conversation I had with this other agent and this coaching and mentoring opportunity. Would you want to take a guess how long this agent's been in the business?
I'd say less than 18 months.
A little bit more, about 24 months.
Got in during COVID?
Got in during COVID, right? So, this particular agent hasn't developed.
Well, good for that agent. A 625 close ain't too bad for that agent.
Yeah, because
Granted, with the help of Keith Smith.
guess what we're going to do? We're going to make sure it's going to close.
Well, and it sounds like the agent, if you happen to catch Real Talk with Keith Smith, because who doesn't watch the show? It's the voice of real estate in Central Virginia. Sounds like you probably should head over to YRP. That's me talking. That's not you talking. I'm allowed to say that. I'm allowed to say that.
You can say whatever the hell you want. The
YRP,
last time I checked, we live in the United States of America.
Yes Realty Partners is a trusted name in the real estate game and someone that gets you fantastic education to practice your craft.
Yeah, so we never approach those things from a recruiting perspective.
I know you don't.
I'm just trying.
It's organic for you.
I'm just trying to. I'm trying to make.
I'm a little less organic.
I know that. Yeah. I don't know what organic means in this conversation, but that's okay. It's just like organic milk or something.
Yes,
or
organic milk. Skim milk for me. You're a 2% guy, aren't you?
I am 2% guy. We've been spending.
I know you
time
extremely well.
So, so this was an opportunity to help a fellow agent get better at their craft.
Yonna liked the turkey reference. She put some turkey emojis. I love Yonna Smith. She knows I love her.
Of course she did. Yeah.
I use that all the time, Yonna. Even turkeys could fly in the wind. I use that all the time.
I think you use that in any context that you possibly can.
I use it. I probably use that once a week.
I think we need to set up something similar to what I need to do with Robert Liberty. Every time you use that, we're going to have to Venmo her $5.
I got to kick her like $1?
No, $5. Tariffs impacted. Tariffs have impacted that is now that is $5. Tariffs. You did not know there was tariffs.
Huge.
Huge. It's going to be huge. Tariffs. God bless me. It's just. I'm going to behave. I almost went off on.
Behave.
I almost went off on a tangent. It's amazing how much tariffs impacts everything else, but that's okay.
Talented realtor watching the program and you're going to have to help me with her last name. I should know it. Bevan Boisvert. No, you're mixing Bevan's last name with Roger Voisinet's last name.
I am.
Judah, can you come over here for a second? I need Judah over here. We need the most intelligent person in the studio.
Funny story coming.
Which happens to be Judah Wickower over here. Bevan's last name, how would you say it over here?
Oh, man, that's rough because I had a friend in high school with that exact same last name. This is Maine, where nobody pronounces anything the correct way.
The interesting thing is Judah has his own camera and microphone and chooses to come over here.
No, you told him to come over here.
Because he doesn't have the three-shot set up. I know he doesn't.
Stop.
I do.
Am I still the executive producer?
You are.
Here's the three-shot.
Judah, you do not. I'm sorry, people. We'd have to give me an opportunity. You do not take this from him.
You're right. He's 100% right. How would you say Bevan's last name?
Normally, I would pronounce it Boisvert.
Oh, wow. Is that right, Bevan?
And that's probably
in Maine. In Maine, you would pronounce it Bovi.
Yonna says green drink.
Green drink.
She's last name with -- green drink. Bevan, help us out. Give us the pronunciation of the last name. I think you had it the first time. What is it, Judah?
Boisvert.
She's doing great business. I love following her on social media. She does a great job.
And her husband is also a Marine and a rock star, so simplify. Yeah, so what was the question? Did we go off on a tangent?
We didn't go off on a tangent. How do you say her last name was the thing?
Okay, that was it. There was nothing more than that.
No, you wanted to go tariffs and turkeys, too. And then Venmoing Yonna $5.
Yeah, okay. What were we talking about?
This ADD is kicking in over here.
121. Just went from 120 to 121.
You're talking about pendings?
No, this is actives. Pendings are at 101.
Okay, so broad question.
But I thought there was a question in this.
Dan Pettit, Mustache Dan Pettit, watching the program. Jerry, can you talk about it if not closed? Good morning. Can I talk about it? I can talk about it.
Talk about what?
It's the listing you're talking about. He talked about it in broad strokes.
Mustache Dan Pettit. 100% allowed to do that. I'm not giving names, addresses, or anything like that.
Totally. Yonna says the translation means green drink. Okay.
Oh, yeah. It's fancy people that speak fancy
Yonna knows like 7 languages, right?
5, but
5 languages. She's a very smart lady, that Yonna.
Languages. I'm trying to figure out English.
Yeah. I'm trying to keep Keith on track on the show here.
Yeah. So Totally. I mean,
laughing hysterically over here. Are you on a 3-shot over there, Judah? Because people need to see you deep
you
laughing
been drinking
over there.
today?
Yeah, Judah's laughing over there.
Have I?
No.
It's very red-faced over there. It's very red-faced. He's very red-faced.
So to answer that question, yes, of course we can talk about this. I'm not using names, not using addresses, not using anything. I'm just using a scenario as a teaching moment. And the teaching moment on that is, I could have went all nuclear, right, and started filing charges and blah 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 blah, all that great stuff. Which, so my path was, okay, let's talk to the young person and say, look, let's kind of work together. Let's try to figure out how we can get this done. What can we do to get this across the finish line? Now, if I would have got told go bleep myself, then I would have went nuclear. But the real estate agent was generally from the perspective of I don't know what to do. So I said, okay,
We'll figure it out.
I never said anything to jeopardize my client. Just tried to coach and mentor this particular agent on how to navigate something like this. And ultimately,
That's why he's a good man.
Ultimately, we got to the point. That being said, because if we couldn't, I had 2 other ones we were going to drop a contract on, right? Because we're now at 121, right? So, there's inventory climbing on it. And sometimes, I'll just say this out there. Other than watching what we talk about, people need to stop watching the news, right? And just reach out to trusted advisors. And, the conversation went, well, the news is saying this, like whatever. That's not what the market...
Kevin Yancey highlighting the news and the layoffs of government workers and his concern of it impacting the Central Virginia region. I responded to Kevin Yancey. That's really not going to have much of an impact here in Central Virginia.
And fellow veteran, love him to death. And he's out on the road delivering stuff that we can consume every day. So I wish him only the safest on the roads. But there's just simply not going to get there. I read a report this morning from NAR, because I, believe it or not, still do read their stuff. So we're roughly 3.8 million units short nationwide, right? So we're just so short on inventory. The 30-year mortgage rate isn't doing so terrible the last couple of weeks. It's not over 7, right?
Hasn't really dropped like expected.
And it's not, right? It's going to bounce between 6 and 7, 6 and 7, 6 and 7. The market's just gotten used to it, right? Buyers are just showing up with more cash. By example of this, right? They're showing up with 30% cash because they didn't want their mortgage payment to be any more than X, because of, their income and their budget and all this kind of great stuff. So you're not going to see that. Where Kevin is right, and we talked about it last Friday, the other side of the hill is extremely soft right now.
I've said it, Kevin.
It is extremely soft. I don't have the data in front of me.
That's his stomping grounds.
Particularly in the new construction world. Now, I will add to this, since on Friday when I started giving those numbers out a little bit, or I posted it on what it is, I made a bunch of phone calls to some developers and builders out there. That's a bit cyclical, right? They're in between inventory, right? So that's really what's going on the new construction side of it. It's just not that the buyers have just sucked out of that side of the hill, is particularly in new construction. There are inventory that isn't quite ready yet. So builders are kind of famous for hedging the market and hedging inventory, the larger builders, right? So they kind of read the tea leaves and decide when they're going to release product and when they're not. So that's kind of what's going on. They're kind of hedging their bets on the inventory. But for all intents and purposes, there were some reductions, substantial reductions, on the other side of the hill in volume, year over year, kind of stuff. So look at one of my Facebook posts. I did it last Friday.
Viewers and listeners, let us know your thoughts. Put them in the feed. I'll relay them live on air. Logan Wells Claylo, hello. Bob Shada, Vice Mayor of Vivace, Mayor of Birdwood. Thank you for watching the program. I'll highlight some of our others. Carol Thorpe in the Jack Jewett District. Thank you for watching the show. Brittany Gray works in real estate. Thank you for watching the show. Colleen
She's doing
Tyler.
great. By the way, just a shout out to her. She's doing great work at the Coves at Colonial Circle. I found out from a meeting I was in last night, Thomas Jefferson Planning District Commission, they're over 50% occupancy of their 125 units, which are 60% AMI, area median income and below. So if you are if you're in that income range and you're looking for a rental, you need to reach out to her because they're filling up pretty quickly. I think by the end of this year, they're going to have those 125 units 100% occupied.
Colleen Tyler, welcome to the broadcast. She's in the game. Gary Palmer's in the game. Broker, welcome to the show. Lloyd Sanook, hello. Thank you for joining us. Philip Dow, thank you for joining us in Scottsville. Aaron King, thank you for joining us. Tom Stargell, the Golden Apple Award winner, thank you for joining us. Jesse Rutherford, thank you for joining us. Love Jesse. Nelson County, what do you attribute Nelson County and Louisa County's drop to?
But let's go on the positive side. Take a look at Greene County.
Okay.
We've been talking about this for a while, right? So, Greene County is slowly becoming the rock star. And there's this pretty substantial jump in value, right? So we've had a 5% increase in median price between April of 2025 and April of 2024. But since the end of the quarter, right? So the end of March now, just in that 1 month, there was a 24% uptick in volume. And why is that? All these new construction we've been talking about for years are now starting to hit. And they're starting to hit in a big way. You're going to start seeing huge new construction numbers starting to come out of it. Stanley Martin just released their units. Ryan has been...
I think Greene County's in a sweet spot right here.
Well, we got to get through water. But as far as...
I think Greene County, from a schools and infrastructure standpoint, may be in a logjam. But the price point and the location is in a sweet spot.
So we're just focusing on where you want to buy and something you want to buy, particularly in new construction world. We've been talking about this for years and keeping an eye on it. Well, it's starting to happen. And it's starting to happen in a big way. So we've got multiple transactions that are going out there. But Nelson, God love Jesse, but you're down 4.4%. Days on market are down by 70%. In other words, they are becoming long on the tooth in the market. But there was a little bit of a price increase in Nelson County at the end of the first quarter. So we were talking about April 25 or April 24, there was a bit of a jump. But if you compare it to how we ended at the end of March, there was an uptick of substantial amount, about 11%. Same thing in Louisa County. There was an 8.8% drop April versus April, but at the end of the quarter, it was up about 3%. So it's important to take a look at these numbers both in a bigger picture and a little bit of a tighter picture. But, I just can't reiterate how important it is. You can take a look at these numbers, and this is why I love what you and I do. You can take a look at these numbers, and if all we were focusing on was the big picture of CAR, it would look very different once you start digging into the specific details of each jurisdiction.
Jamie Turner asked a question that I didn't get to, and he said, have Keith answer the challenges that UVA is facing from a hiring standpoint, from a cost of living raise. They're frozen now. They're not offering cost of living raises, 3%. Performance-based bonuses. The chatter is there could be some big-time changes coming to UVA Health from a Medicare and Medicaid payout standpoint to the health system, and if it could impact Central Virginia at all. Have that conversation. And, I think I know where you're going to go, but I want to relay it to the viewer, to Keith Smith here.
Oh.
I want to hear what you're going to say.
I thought you were going to say.
I don't think it's going to impact it much.
Yeah, I thought you were going to say it, then I was going to respond.
No, I don't think it's going to impact it that much.
It hasn't.
Right.
At least in the real estate world,
yeah.
It hasn't. Transitions happen, right? This is a good thing or a bad thing. That's not my pay grade. My pay grade is to kind of keep a track on the real estate. I have 3 contracts at the moment right now for people that are relocating for jobs either in the medical, one is at the medical, 2 is at the university. So people are moving in, people getting hired, right? Their contracts are still valid, right? They're going through their what is it called when you
Due diligence?
no when before you actually do your work, you pre-training. There's a
Okay.
term, there's a term for it. Help me out, Judah. Introduction
Okay.
when employees show up
Yeah.
before they go to work.
Training is good.
Training
Yeah.
or whatever it is. They're doing that. They're here. They're doing it.
Yeah.
They're staying in staying in apartments, short-term apartments, Airbnbs, while we're waiting to close on these units. I'm not seeing it slowing down. So we shall see. Just had an awesome presentation from UVA at the Planning District Commission last night, where they're working with Honda and the Planning District Commission to do an analysis on road safety. $4.5 million deal.
Jason Howard on Rio Road. Keith, the word you're looking for is onboarding.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank
Jason
you.
Howard, you're a good
Thank you.
man, Jason Howard.
Thank
You make the
Thank
program
you.
better,
Thank you.
Jason.
Why people even listen to me when I can't think of simple words?
Because you know what you're talking about, even if you can't find the words.
Yeah, there you go. I'm not sure if that's a compliment.
Think about the talent that you have to know what you're talking about, even if you can't find the words.
Yeah. Is that a compliment?
That is a compliment.
There you
That's a
go.
compliment.
Yeah. So
You've been in the game since 1987.
I have been. So look, it hasn't. Look, the dynamics of the market, real estate market, and the housing market. The only thing that's getting worse is what?
Affordability.
There you go. That's the only thing that's getting worse. That's the only negative thing that's getting worse. We have more buyers. We have an inventory coming in, but we're staying parallel, right? As the inventory's coming up, our buyers are coming in, right? So the pendings are kind of following it. It's the ratios just really isn't changing, and great dynamics on it. What we don't have is something that's affordable, frankly.
Here's an interesting comment. You guys have talked about tariffs and potentially a slowing economy.
Not me, I'm trying to get away
and
from
vulnerability with the stock market. How about you have the conversation if all these things get fixed? And a good example is the conversation, the news that came out today with China, and China considering a potential deal with Trump. What happens if all these things get fixed?
It just gets worse.
Yeah, it gets worse. Trump is 103 days in office, folks? 103, 104 days in office? What happens if it all gets fixed, is what they're asking. Giddy up and get ready. If he is able to get the rates to drop, and Trump again today on Truth Social called on Jerome Powell to drop the rates after a solid April jobs report, Trump gets on Truth Social and says, Jerome Powell, drop the rates, cut the rates, cut the rates. Folks, if the rates cut, it's going to be a bonanza.
So I just pulled up my Dow Industrial Average. A year ago, we were at 38,000. Right now, we're at 42,000. No, there's a big hump in the middle.
Well, yeah.
I
don't think that's...
big hump in the middle.
I think what you need to do is look at it over like the last 5 months, 6 months. But to your point, eventually it corrects and it's going to move forward. That's the point he's making.
That's the point I'm trying to make.
Yeah.
And to pay attention, and unless you are in the
Day trading. Right.
unless you're trying to do this, you put your money there, you give it to the ERPs,
And you leave it. Emergent Financial Services.
and you just leave it alone.
Saw the ERPs the other day.
Yep,
Smart
and
people.
we've
Great
got
guys.
a meeting with them this afternoon. You just leave it alone, right? And there will be ups and downs. But I didn't take a look at what the 10-year.
The 10-year Treasury, I'll find that for you. The 10-year Treasury.
It was like 4.2 this morning.
Yeah, it's held steady. A little up, a little down, but it's held steady. It is at 4.3 now. The 10-year Treasury. Got it in front of me right here.
Yeah. So the rule of thumb is usually double that, take a little bit off. So that's where we're kind of at, a little bit south of 7. It's important on these 30-year mortgage rates, make sure your credit score is good, because that impacts this rate more than all this other junk that we're talking about, to go ahead and do it. But look, we've been talking about this forever. So Hold on a second. I just want to just check something real quick while you talk for a second.
We'll give some love to some of the partners of the program.
Yeah.
I want to highlight what Neil Williamson is doing at the Free Enterprise Forum. He has some candidate forums coming up for both Albemarle County and
Yep.
the city of Charlottesville. Neil
Yep.
Williamson does.
Yep.
Support the Free Enterprise Forum.
100%. And we're going to be doing the same here after June.
I love it.
Mid-June. I've already started that conversations. So I just took a look. Last 7 days, right? So my monitor that I do, last 7 days, it's all the 6 jurisdictions, includes all the product types, right? Attached, detached, condos, new construction. As it stands right now, there's 119 units that closed in the last 7 days. Do you want to know what the median sales price was for that?
Tell me.
$510.
$510. Woo.
Your average obviously is a little higher, was $665. So I actually can look at that and go back as far as 30 days. So let's see what the last 30 days look like in sales. So there was 334 sold, 482.5 median. So you're in your median price ranges in your high 4s, low 5s. That's the stumbling block that we're dealing with right now is, I read a report this morning that the average house is well over 6 figures salary.
I mean, median family household income, according to HUD, 125.8.
Yeah.
125,800.
So you need every bit of that to borrow enough money for a $500,000 house, that's assuming you can find it. So let's take a look at something real quick.
Viewers and listeners, let us know your thoughts. Comments are coming in. They want his thoughts on UVA and the Federal Executive Institute and the Charlottesville City Schools gaining the Federal Executive Institute, which we've covered quite well in the I Love CVille show.
Well,
that
you know
surprised
what?
a lot of people.
It didn't surprise me too much.
Okay. Did you follow the story?
I did very much,
Yeah.
very closely actually, and I did not follow it on the show.
Okay.
But
Who
there's
broke that news?
there's a little buried lore out there, right? That the federal government first needs to offer it to like homeless.
Yeah, the whole.
organizations.
I don't think local government knew, and
No, they didn't know.
They did not know.
They did know, but they got in at this was a topic of discussion last night at the commission.
Okay.
So
If
they got in at the last minute.
Okay.
And that's what stopped the UVA sale, because what happens is it has to go towards homeless first, second would be towards schools. But just think about this, right? Do you know anything? Have you physically been in that facility?
No.
Unbelievable.
Yeah. And it used to be a hotel.
Yep, and a little bit of trivia. Judah, jump in. Who stayed at that hotel? Famous movie. Portion of it was filmed here. 2 famous stars stayed there.
Can you give us a hint?
Oh God. So I'll give you the name of the movie. The name of the movie was called Big.
Big? Tom Hanks?
No, Giant. I got that wrong.
Okay.
Called Giant.
Big and Giant are 2 different things.
2 different movies. Called Giant.
Love Big. Huge fan of Big.
Giant.
Giant, not so much.
Giant. Well, it was done in the 50s. Liz Taylor and Rock Hudson.
Okay.
Yeah. And if you ever watch the movie, the intro or the beginning of the movie is shot at the Keswick train station.
Okay.
And they stayed.
I love when you do this.
They stayed.
Look at Keith Smith.
They stayed because I'm an old film buff.
I know you are. He loves, is it Turner Classic Movies?
I don't. It's the only thing I watch. I don't watch
TCM.
news. I don't watch. I just watch. We watch old movies. And so Liz Taylor wanted to stay there because it was the only hotel in the area that had 2 pools. So the 2 pools that are there, I've been there since the 50s. But it was, that was like the top end hotel for a very, very long time. And then the government bought it and then did what they needed to do. But think about this, right? Not political, right? This is just dumb luck, right? How long has it been the city been trying to figure out its pre-K?
Long time. Extremely long time.
And all of a sudden now they got a building for $0.
$0. Now, the upkeep's not going to be $0.
So
Yearly maintenance not going to be $0.
So there, I have
People question the location, the difficulty of getting in and out of that location on Emmett Street with traffic and the one way. If you're going north of town, getting in there is going to be a nightmare.
Not my problem.
Other folks say, shouldn't preschools be feeders of neighborhoods and not centrally located in a city, but instead be strategically positioned as neighborhood funnels, which I think is a fair point.
Yes.
Some folks, and I made the point yesterday, will we see Donald Trump and J.D. Vance come to Charlottesville for a ribbon cutting ceremony and ask all the folks locally to come to the ribbon cutting ceremony, which I think could be quite humorous.
I don't think we'll take a bet on that one.
You think he'll come for the ribbon cutting ceremony?
Whatever.
Okay.
All those things are yes, right? How much did they pay for the building?
$0.
There you go.
Yeah, it's a no-brainer. Yeah. So it's assessed just under $20 million. What's market value on 14 contiguous acres on Emmett Street? If it's assessed just under 20, do we 2x the assessment? 3x the assessment? You say it's $60 million easy?
100%.
Wow.
All day long.
I mean, he knows this. This is what he does.
All day long, twice on Sunday.
$60 million.
So
market value.
What is one of my famous sayings about in business? I'd rather be lucky than good any day of the week. Somebody got real lucky, right, to get that building for $0. Does it have challenges? Sure. Versus what? They were literally going nowhere for as long as I can remember. They've been trying to solve this problem, and all of a sudden now they got a building, right? So thank you, sir, and keep on moving on. But I think that was a rather be lucky than good any day of the week. I think somebody got smart real fast at the last minute and slid in an application and took it literally right underneath UVA's noses.
Sam Sanders called it a generational impact
100%.
for Charlottesville, Virginia.
100%. Now, it has struggles. You've fairly pointed them out.
It's going to cost $2 million a year to upkeep it, and the school system struggles to upkeep its buildings.
100%. 100%.
Struggles to upkeep
100%.
14 acres, massive structure.
100%. How much did it cost them?
Cost them $0, but nothing's free.
For 100%. We know that for sure. But they're also not spending 67. Take a look at my county.
They would never have been able to get it for $60 million.
Well, they never been able to get it for $20 million.
Rock Hudson and Liz Taylor.
Yep, Rock Hudson and Liz Taylor, 100%.
Yonna knew that.
Great movie.
Yonna knew that. If it had a market value price tag, the city would never have been able to get it.
Who else is in that movie?
Is that a question for Liz?
No,
Somebody else,
another famous actor that's in that movie.
Judah, do you know? This is before my time.
That died. James Dean.
Oh, James Dean. What did James Dean die of?
Automobile. Got
Did you know?
Car accident.
Yeah, I knew that.
Yeah, got in a car accident. Okay. James Dean.
Why the scoff then?
Played the problematic brother.
The troublemaker.
The troublemaker is kind of his standard.
That's his role.
That was his standard role, and I think he may have lived it and ended up somewhere on a California highway dying from an automobile accident.
6 feet under James Dean.
Yeah, but anyway, that's a classic movie. My favorite Liz Taylor movie is A Cat on a Hot Tin Roof.
That's a great movie.
Yeah.
I've seen that one. Yeah. Liz Taylor was the bee's knees at one point.
100%.
Keith Smith may or may not have had a poster of Liz Taylor in his bedroom.
Not me.
Not you?
Not me. Poster in my bedroom.
Did you have a poster in your bedroom at all?
When I grew up?
Yeah. When you were a kid, who did you have a poster in your bedroom of? You didn't have a poster in your... Are you from Queens or Brooklyn?
Brooklyn.
Brooklyn. No posters in the bedroom? Because you shared it with your brothers.
So, Jerry, I can't remember what I did yesterday.
You know if you had a poster in your bedroom. Come on. All boys had a poster in their bedroom of something.
I don't remember.
You never had a poster in your bedroom?
No.
Growing up as a teenage boy or as a middle school boy?
No, we were playing stickball in the street.
We all played stickball in the street.
And all that stuff.
Judah Wickhauer, did you have a
you
poster
did not.
in your
You
bedroom?
did not play stickball.
I played stickball in the street.
In the street.
Yeah,
Stickball
in the
street.
cul-de-sac.
Okay, that's not in the street.
It's in the street, in front of the house.
How cute is that?
Not in the street with cars. No, we didn't
dodge cars.
dodging cars.
Yeah.
I mean, we didn't grow up in Brooklyn.
Yeah.
Did you have a poster in your bedroom, Judah Wickhauer?
Oh, man.
Oh, my gosh. This is the
I can't
toughest question
remember.
ever.
If I had a poster in my bedroom.
I can't think of a specific poster, but then we moved around a lot. So I've had
this
so
guy's
many
nomadic
bedrooms. I
over
don't,
here.
you know, I may have put up a poster at some point. But
Okay. Is nomadic your
It certainly
favorite?
wasn't something from 90210 or Saved by the Bell.
Shoot, oh my God, that was a jab from you to me. That was a dig. That was a well-played dig, my
Did he
friend.
just say Saved by the Bell?
Yeah, he just gave me a dig right there. I think it was an inside joke because he knows my affinity for those two shows right there.
Yeah.
That was hilarious, Judah.
Saved by the Bell.
Judah's been on point this week. I've been very impressed with Judah.
Yeah, the few moments I catch on your noon show, I've been I actually told him that before we went in.
He's been on point. Go ahead, Keith.
So no, I just kind of want to rally back to how important it is in this industry for people to communicate with the other side, right? You know, and I always talk about the 6 things, and the 6th one is the other side matters. In the market that we're in at the moment, the number 6 is the most important part of it. That said, you know, if you're being treated, if you feel like you can't communicate with the other side to get them to understand some of the lines they're crossing, then that's when you kind of escalate it. But I've found generally, and I've learned this because of when I was attached to the State Departments and behind the Iron Curtain in the Soviet Union, if you take the time to actually communicate with somebody, and if they're willing to communicate back with you, you usually can get to a reasonable
100%.
fit.
I mean, and
finish
that's what
line.
we do, though.
Well, the reason I'm saying that is because people, that's just kind of how that conversation started. This particular agent on the other side wouldn't talk to me. Right?
What, strictly text?
Strictly text.
Oof. I don't get that.
And I was like, okay, we need to have a conversation. We need to talk this through, right? You know, and I kept on pushing at it and pushing at it and pushing at it to the point that we actually had a conversation. So, you know, don't hide behind this thing. Actually,
Seeing more and more of that lately.
100%. And have a conversation. Even better than that, try to do it face to face.
Yeah, in person is the way to do it, especially for something like that.
But it always blows my mind how people in my industry have a problem with talking with people on the phone.
And that's just not younger professionals.
I don't understand
That's
it.
across the board.
It's true. But I think in our line of business, where communication matters, to rely on emails and texts where people can interpret it however they wish to interpret it is a bit problematic. You just take the time and have a conversation face to face. Trust me, 9 times out of 10, it'll get worked out. And oh, by the way, you'll know really quickly if you're being told to go bleep yourself, and then you escalate it from there. But I've found if you have an opportunity to communicate with somebody and do it in a way they understand it, not the way you understand it, 9 times out of 10, you're going to get across the finish
This is
line.
an interesting comment. Does Keith think the market will slow with summertime and travel and vacation?
Yes and no. I think that's a really great question. And we'll find out. But I think what you're going to start seeing is these 100, right now it's on 122. 10 minutes ago it was 100.
Actives?
Actives just jumped up another one. I just refreshed at this point. So I think you're going to see that tempo of new either stabilize, maybe in the 115, 120 a week range, maybe plus or minus, or kind of go back a little bit. But, and I think what the thinking in that question is, and correct me if I'm wrong, is they're thinking schools and stuff like that. The problem is the majority of the buyers are what?
Boomers, no kids. We had this conversation the other day on the show. Is the majority of the buyers coming here are boomers, so it's the kid situation is not impacting things.
And it's impacting the budgets carefully. You got to really take a look at these particular budgets. Albemarle County may not be one because of that, but some of these outlying counties, to include myself, my county, the student population is dropping dramatically, right? But oh, by the way, I'm paying on a $72 million high school, right? I'm still paying for all these different things.
Fluvanna County.
That pressure.
We had that conversation too. The student population is dropping quickly. The utilization rate of elementary schools in the city of Charlottesville. Did you know there's not a single elementary school in the city of Charlottesville that has a utilization rate at 80% or more?
Yeah.
Not a single one. I was talking about this with James.
So what does that tell you?
It tells you that the people that can afford Charlottesville and Albemarle County are either boomers or don't have kids in their household, empty nesters, or it's the households that have their kids in private schools. There's an interesting dynamic that's happening that no one's talking about. Private school enrollment is increasing while public school enrollment is decreasing.
100%, because the income that's coming in can support it. I'll just tell you a little bit something that Yonna and I, like a light bulb went on this morning. 122 new homes, new listings came on the market as of 7 days from this moment backwards. Median list price this is all the jurisdictions, $537,823. The average is $743. There's a low at $85,000, a high at 7.5.
Where's the 7.5?
I'm just looking at the aggregates. I haven't had a chance to take a look at the whole thing. I can easily do that. But my point is the median sales price on these things are median list price of $537.
It's flying.
Farmington.
Oh, I know that house.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
But but the median takes out that $7 million, that takes out that $85,000 on that. Tell you back to your question about that. So Yonna and I, every morning, 5:30, 6 o'clock, take a walk in our neighborhood. It's the acres at Lake Monticello. We developed it. There's 150 houses, yada, yada, yada. And we go for this walk, and there's about a dozen to a dozen and a half of people that walk every morning. And we say hi to everybody and all this kind of great stuff. And I was having a conversation with one of the neighbors there that just happened to have kids that are in the school system. There's very few in this whole subdivision, very few people have kids that go on that. And they were having this conversation about, well, what are we going to do during the summer with the kids? And I went, oh, I have not had to think about that, right? I have not had to think about that, oh my God, in 15, 20 years. It never entered my mind. And I'm in the business, and I talk about this stuff all the time, and it never entered my mind. And then everybody was joking around, well, what day is it, right? Because the retirees, the boomers are walking around. Is today Friday? Is today Thursday?
You know, my better half woke up on the 1st of January to sign up our oldest for summer camps. It's that competitive to get into summer camps.
And we don't know
The 1st of January at like 6 a.m.
Send.
Had it all lined up. That's when open enrollment. He's in like 6 summer camps this summer. And most of those summer camps were secured in January. And they had a cap, and they met their capacity. Immediately met their capacity.
We don't know this locally because we can't get the data, right? But we know nationally, 42% of all the transactions in the last 12 months were me, right? We're boomers.
Yeah, and that's why public school enrollment is dropping. And the next thing that you need to follow with public school enrollment is dropping, a lot of the funding for the public schools is tied to enrollment numbers. So the next conundrum the public schools are going to have locally is funding difficulties with enrollment dropping. James asked this question, Keith, do you know about how many homes are left to be built in Belvedere? It seems like it is growing and growing and growing. Also, do you know how many units are going along in the Rio-John Warner corridor?
I don't know off the top of my head. I can look it up. I know Belvedere opened up a new section.
Belvedere is a massive development.
Yeah, I'm going to say this, and I'm not a huge fan of getting in and out of Belvedere. That entrance
it's brutal.
Is brutal.
Yeah.
And I'm used to driving in city traffic. It's brutal. When I go in and out of Belvedere, I actually go through Free State Road. For a little hint over there, if you're in Belvedere, there's literally an old wooden bridge that crosses the railroad tracks, and you can get off a little bit closer to 29, and I don't get the sight distance. I mean, it's my world. I have a hard time understanding how that project entrance got approved that way. It is, you need to be super careful when you're particularly you're coming out, making a left-hand turn to go towards downtown. It's a little tricky.
But you'll get that information.
I'll look it up, and we'll get it for you. I'll make some phone calls and see what we got. I think Southern Development's got a new section going in there, so it's not huge. It's not like 100, 500, or 1,000. It's probably in a couple of hundred unit range, but I'll get that information for next Friday.
The source of the source, Keith Smith, Real Talk with Keith Smith, presented by Yes Realty Partners. Weekend plans?
No ride this weekend.
Okay.
Knocked it out of the ballpark last weekend, by the way.
Congratulations.
Yeah. My son-in-law and I crushed it. And
Houston did well.
We averaged 17 miles an hour, and that's
moving.
That's moving for an old dude. 16th of this month, I'm out of town.
Okay.
Ned Galloway's going to sit in my seat.
We have an announcement coming.
I'm going to leave that up to Ned.
Okay.
But Ned,
Two-term Albemarle County Board of Supervisor, Rio District. Chitter chatter is Ned Galloway will make an announcement for a third term.
well, I think it's pretty much already done because he filled out the paperwork and
We haven't had an official announcement.
He has not had an official announcement. That's his story to tell.
Yep. He does a hell of a job.
He has.
Love Ned Galloway. Hope he hears that.
He has.
He knows I love him.
He has dealer's choice, so he's got 2 empty seats, or just you and him, whatever he wants to do. I hope he takes an opportunity to bring a couple of fellow elected officials and start coming, because we're going to start getting into crazy season here, right?
Jack Jewett District has a competitive race, 2 candidates. Samuel Miller District, 2 candidates. Rio District right now, only Supervisor Galloway running.
So we got till June, right?
Yeah, we do. I have told you.
But, the scuttlebutt is, this is how this works. If you're not out sending out feelers now, and people like you and I that keep our nose to the ground and kneel, if you're not hearing names right now, the likelihood of it is pretty minimal. That doesn't mean you can't get like a surprise last minute going in, because they still got to get their signatures, right? Right, depending on where you're at. In Fulton County, in my jurisdiction, it's 125, right? But they have to get their signatures. So once you start going out getting signatures for 120 or whatever the number is for your jurisdiction, that's when the cat's out of the bag, right? And I'm not hearing a lot of that.
I'm not hearing much on the Rio District, and it looks like City Council, because the Democratic primary is the race for council, is just going to have Jen Fleischer.
Well, so a little
Brian Pinkston and Juan Diego Wade.
Little PSA: tomorrow starts early voting in the Charlottesville. So anybody out there that wants to vote, it starts. I think out of the how many seats we have up? 17.
3 Board of Supervisors, Albemarle County. 2 Charlottesville City Council.
No, I'm talking the full 6 jurisdictions.
Oh, it's a boatload.
I believe it's 17.
Yeah, boatload.
It'll be a handful. You can count on one hand that's contested. Which I have
We all have beef with that.
If I was running, yeah, you're right. It makes life simple. But it doesn't make for better politics, right? It doesn't make for better decisions. So anybody's out there thinking about it, you're running out of clock here.
Shows archived on realtalkwithkeithsmith.com, realtalkwithkeithsmith.com. Click the Partners tab. The people you can trust in the game we call real estate. Judah Wickhauer, the director and producer of the show. Keith Smith, the star of the program.
Do me a favor. If you got a beef with somebody, pick up the phone and call them and talk to them.
Don't eat a pork chop. Pick up the phone and call them.
Amen. Don't hide behind your phone. Have a conversation.
Well said.
The world would be such a better place.
Have it in person, actually.
Have it in person.
Jerry Miller, the I Love CVille show, guys, is up at 12:30. So long, everybody. Well done, Keith Smith. Well done, Keith Smith. Mics are going hot. Show's about to get off. And